Welcome to Snape Chat, voice of the Snapedom, dedicated to spreading Snape love the world over. This is Snapecentric. Thanks for joining us. The topic of this episode is Snape Lives, because of course he does. I'll be discussing this with Megs, danpuff, and our special guest, author extraordinaire, Evilbean. After that, I sit down with Evilbean to talk about her works, which include Moonstone and That Awful Snape Boy. Enjoy the show. Hello, this is Snapecentric, and I'm here with Megs.
Hello.
danpuff.
Hi there.
And our special guest, Evilbean.
Hi, everyone.
And today's topic is Snape Lives.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting.
Very near and dear to my heart.
Same.
So,
yeah. None of us want Snape to die, obviously.
mm,
All here because we love him. Yeah.
yeah. And he does such interesting things afterwards, too. So
For sure.
I'm not sure exactly when, maybe 5 years ago, there was a kind of a stir in the press of somebody on Reddit was saying that Snape didn't die. And their argument was that he was not in the Forbidden Forest with Harry's parents and Remus and Sirius.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And also that there's no mention of a body.
Right. Yeah. Of what happened to him afterwards.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially because, I mean, you think about the epilogue, you know, for what it is. But Harry names Albus Severus after Severus as one of the bravest men he ever knew. How
Right.
that wasn't brought to light or celebrated in the fact of him being a hero. We only hear about it the 19 years later. Like, yeah, what happened between that time? Did Harry have some sort of memorial? I feel like he would have. I feel like he would have been so moved in the moment to like do something for Snape too. So I would hope among the wizarding world it wouldn't be a secret if, you know, if it went that way.
I agree,
Right.
especially having named his son after him.
Yeah.
That sort of implies that it meant something to him and that probably he did more than just that. No,
Right.
Whether the man himself would have wanted Harry to tell everybody his secrets, it would have been important to Harry at least that his name be rehabilitated, so to say.
Yeah, I don't think Snape would ever expect it. I don't think he didn't want glory. Like, obviously, that was not his intent. It never was his goal. But whether he
Right.
was given it or not, that was kind of out of his hands at that point.
I think JKR said that Snape's portrait was also not among those of the other headmasters.
Rude.
Yes, until Harry
Rude.
saw it and made sure it got changed.
that hurts my heart a little bit, but
Yeah.
it also like
does.
informs it that Harry was like, no, that's wrong. He needs to be there. He belongs there.
Right. Like
Mhm.
Minerva's better than that. You know what I mean? Like she
Yeah,
like she would not I don't I'm mad
I'm
knowing
sure
that
she
now.
felt horribly guilty.
Like,
Yeah.
Real salty.
Bless Harry.
Yeah. JKR was like, well, he abdicated his duty. And for that reason, it's like, well, what, does everybody die in the office?
Right.
I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe so. Maybe that's how they,
Yeah, they found Dippet in his rooms, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Okay, who's next?" And Dumbledore's like, "I guess I'll do it."
yeah.
Any takers? Anyone?
But it's just thinking of everything Severus did during that last year, like he doing everything he could to protect everyone he could while maintaining his role, like how impossible a task that was. And to be like, oh, well, he abdicated, or oh, he was a Death Eater. Like, no, he did everything he could to protect the school and to protect the people in it. And you're just going to be like, nope, he doesn't get a portrait.
And Dumbledore knows that. And Dumbledore's portrait is there. You think he would be like, I don't know. He's a problematic man. But I feel like he would make a big deal about it. I would hope he would. If he didn't, then
He should have.
shame on you, Dumbledore. Shame on you.
Yes, and I feel like Hogwarts would know, you know. It's weird for me because the castle would know what Severus was about. So for me, it is a little weird, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The school has its own magic. So that is
Exactly.
that's very weird. Unless it was like in his will or something that he didn't want to be put on the wall, like part of his like modesty sort of thing. But then eventually Harry, you know, because he's bullheaded, so he's gonna do whatever he wants and be like, forget it, you deserve to be up there. And then maybe he is, and then gets in an argument with Harry, like, what am I doing here? I didn't want to be here. Do you want to be around all these old ass dudes? Like, no, you wouldn't. Like,
maybe he didn't want to deal with Dumbledore anymore, you know, after a year.
Exactly. Yeah. He's like, let me rest in peace.
Oh.
Anyway, he lives, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so this is all academic.
Yep, all academic.
So anyway, there's some other clues in the text. His first speech, where he bottles fame, brew glory, and even stopper death. And if he can teach people how to do that, he should be able to take his own advice. And
for sure.
Especially if he knows his death is imminent. Like, obviously he knew. Like, he knew that he was going to die. So for him to not be prepared for that,
he had to have been prepared for any possibility, especially the role he was in. Like, not just a Death Eater, but climbing those things and being that close and being headmaster of Hogwarts, like, and being the spy. Like, of course he was at risk. Of course he was in danger. And he's a potions master.
Yeah.
We've talked in previous episodes, like, he created spells. He fixed potions. What can he do? And knowing the position he's in, of course he's going to plan for it.
Yeah. He has a little box of all the potions, like all the necessary potions that he shrinks down and has with him at all times. Obviously, be it for himself or for other people. I mean, like, why wouldn't he do that? Why not?
I even read a fanfic once where he would put, like, he'd brew potions and put them in little capsules, and he would, like, embed them in his body so he could, like, have them go off without, like, anyone to the fact that he was ingesting potions. So he would have, like, healing potions and, like, anything he might need on the job. Like, he would just have capsules inside of him so he could, like, that's the kind, like, he's so clever and intelligent. Like, of course he could do things like that.
Especially because
imagine,
you know, he was tortured multiple times by Voldemort. You know that it's like, regardless of how good of a servant he was, I mean, Voldemort just has fun with that. So I could totally see that. Some sort of pain relief thing for him to, like, pretend scream or something. Kind of like, what was it? The witch who liked being burned so often because it would tickle. You remember that? That would be Snape. Like, he like, it would just be tickling him or something.
Some sort of potion or spell that would just protect him from it, and he could just fake it until he makes
exactly.
it. The man's a spy. Come on.
And he knows real misery. I mean, he could dredge up some real emotionally traumatic stuff.
Poor Cruciatus yawning behind his hand.
So there's all sorts of potions. He could preload them, take them before he allows Lucius the Judas goat to take him.
Either beforehand, having them on hand to take after, like, something. He's probably over prepared for any possibility.
Right.
Yeah. The one thing that I was surprised by was the fact that he didn't pre-bottle the memories. You know, like, either A, he wanted to hold on to them until the very end. You know what I mean?
That's very good.
Yeah, because it was kind of like, just happened to be like, okay, I'm dying and now I need to get these to Harry. But it's almost like it was a comfort, even though they were most were terrible memories, that he reminded himself why he was doing what he was doing. So I always thought that was interesting that he didn't have it prepared ahead of time.
Well, see, the thing is that he didn't actually die. So he wanted to fake it. So he had to do this whole dramatic thing.
Yeah. Oh, he's drama. He's 100% drama.
So he did it for the drama. Like, oh no, I'm dying. Quick, take these memories. It was because he didn't die. So plan the whole thing for the drama.
Exactly. Yep.
Who thinks that the way they portrayed it in the movie was a little bit low tech? I thought they could have made it. I mean, here's a little tear. Oh, pick it up.
Yeah.
They could have taken some CGI and made it look like memories, you know, that he was crying memories, whatever.
It's definitely more dramatic in the book.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Okay. Well, of course, we know he's the potions master, so he's got lots of skills. And he possibly even brewed Arthur Weasley's antidote, though, when he got bitten by Nagini.
I can see that.
Yeah, definitely. I never thought about that, but that absolutely. If he like couldn't, if the healers at St. Mungo's couldn't get it figured out, that they went to try and do Muggle stitches. Like, who else to try and figure it out than Severus? I mean, yeah, that makes the most sense.
He's been correcting potions since he was a student. Like, of course.
Exactly.
And for a lot of antidotes, you need the venom for the snake too. So who else than Snape could have done that?
Yeah, he could have got a hold of venom.
I don't know, was somebody like to read that passage, or I shall go ahead and do it. And Voldemort swiped the air with the Elder Wand. It did nothing to Snape, who for a split second seemed to think that he had been reprieved. But then Voldemort's intention became clear. The snake's cage was rolling through the air, and before Snape could do anything more than yell, it encased him, head and shoulders, and Voldemort spoke in Parseltongue. Kill. There was a terrible scream. Harry saw Snape's face losing the little color it had left. It whitened as his black eyes widened, as the snake's fangs pierced his neck, as he failed to push the enchanted cage off himself, as his knees gave way and he fell to the floor. I regret it, said Voldemort coldly. He turned away. There was no sadness in him, no remorse. It was time to leave the shack and take charge with a wand that would now do his full bidding. He pointed it at the starry cage holding the snake, which drifted upward off Snape, fell sideways onto the floor, blood gushing from the wounds in his neck. Voldemort swept from the room without a backward glance, and the great serpent floated after him in its huge protective sphere.
I always wondered why Voldemort didn't use the killing curse. The only thing I could figure was that he was saving it for Harry and was like hesitant because the last time because he killed like Charity Burbage, right? So I don't know. I could only imagine him being anxious because of what happened with Harry when he was a baby.
I think he was afraid that the wand wouldn't work on its master, For me, that's a reason why he didn't use his wand directly on Severus. Yeah.
Oh,
that's a good, yeah.
Yeah, because in the past when, the Tale of the Three Brothers, the one had like his throat was slit, and stolen or even just.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Voldemort doesn't know that you just have to take it from the master, which he didn't do, and obviously the whole Snape to Draco, blah, blah, blah. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And it is Voldemort. He's thinking that you need to kill someone to advance,
That makes sense. Okay, yeah, absolutely. But then it wouldn't be drama.
Exactly.
Drama.
Drama.
Yep. Snape is extra. Yeah.
And maybe something poetic about, okay, we're gonna inject the potions master with venom. Surely he's not prepared for this.
Yeah, right. He doesn't carry around anti-venom because he's surrounded by a poisonous snake almost every day.
Exactly.
It takes him longer to die, and therefore he has time to get the memories to Harry, which with an AK he wouldn't.
Yes, right. That's exactly. He would be gone. Like that would be. It's also surprising to think that one neck wound was enough to kill him in technically a short amount of time, when Arthur Weasley was literally bit all over his body, and then they had to send someone to go retrieve him and then take him to the hospital. So obviously he did not die. That makes no sense.
I'm sorry, I'm a terrible reader, but it refers to blood gushing from his wound, which could mean, was that flowing or was it arterial spray like Sweeney Todd?
I mean, it could have been his main artery, which makes a difference. Like if that didn't happen to Arthur, that would be one thing. But like obviously the snake would know I'm going for a killing blow versus just like torturing or attacking for the sake of probably striking fear into the order, I guess you could say, like showing like, hey, you're, we know you're here and we can do something about it. No one's safe.
It tells you what a weirdo I am, but I've spent a lot of time thinking, are those fangs large enough to actually damage the artery?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. If you look at the size of fangs on a rattlesnake and bigger, I don't know.
It's a giant snake, so
it's a giant snake, so it's got giant fangs.
Yeah, it's practically like stabbing with a knife. So absolutely. But yeah, tiny snake. I mean, no, definitely. I don't think there would be gushing. It would definitely be death by venom situation.
Yeah. The closer I read it recently, yes, that it did look like it was only one bite.
Yeah. Suck it out, Harry. Get it. Suck it out.
Yep.
Use your Boy Scouts knowledge.
Well, they say that you should allow wounds to bleed freely to get the germs out.
Well, yeah, and get the venom out.
Yeah. I do have this this thing on the outline that says blood looks like more than it is. Actually, that's in a professional opinion because I worked in a lab for 20 years. I saw somebody drop a pint of blood and it covered the floor really quickly. And that's only about a half pint.
How much at most do people usually donate? Do we know? Like as far as like are able to give up?
That would be a full pint. And then it's separated into different parts. So that's why, I mean, even just half that amount of red cells.
Right.
They just spread all over. So it looks horrible.
It looks, I'm sure. I'm sure it does.
I'm sure I think it's a natural thing for people when they see blood outside the body. It's shocking. And definitely in real life, watching movies is a whole different thing. But
And I think he would know that. And if he was, say, trying to fake his death, that might be something he would keep in mind. Or, they're going to see all this blood and they're going to think I'm a lost cause. If that was the goal, or maybe just not even him thinking that, maybe they're younger, they might not know.
That's you have the draft of living death. You know what I mean? Like there's obviously ways to completely convincingly fake a death. So
But then I've seen works where they talk about, I've got blood replenishing potion on me. So even if it was a blood loss, like that's something a potion could fix that he could feasibly have on hand. Or maybe even say Hermione could have that on hand.
Okay, he says, look at me. And then the green eyes found the black. But after a second, something in the depths of the dark pair seemed to vanish, leaving them fixed, blank and empty. The hand holding Harry thudded to the floor, and Snape moved no more. He could just have lost consciousness and they're leaving this dying man and just running off. I'm really fucking pissed off at him,
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like with Harry, he acted too cool for the situation. Like I feel like he would have gone into some sort of hysterics, around it. That maybe that's just me, but I don't even know. Or send a Patronus to somebody to come to the Shrieking Shack immediately or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's what good people do. They, regardless of
how you feel.
Which, to be fair, they were still in the middle of a battle. So if you think someone's dead and you're like, I have to go kill Voldemort. No.
More people are dying out there. Exactly.
Like if you're distracted and panicking and not thinking about it, you're like, okay, well, he's dead and I really have to go. You can see, I do understand how it might be like, well, they just left him there, but also they're kids. They have more responsibilities than children should even have. So I understand, even though I'm like, you could have done something.
Right.
That's what
you don't have to like it.
And they like to think, well, Hermione, instead of getting kissed in the Chamber of Secrets, stayed behind. Or that Lucius went back. Or that Snape had a house elf who is invisible, just be there after the whole thing. And once everybody's gone, takes care of them. I don't know. There's
many possibilities.
There are so many possibilities. That's right.
And that's why he's alive, even if no one else knows it.
That's right.
And he's on a desert island, drinking a pina colada, living his best life, forgetting everything about the war.
That's sure.
Yes. Another thing I have to ask is, do you think Snape wanted to live?
That is an interesting question.
He was probably so damn tired by then.
I can see it both ways. I've come this far. I think he deserves to live, but did he want to? I don't know. He had such a shit life where...
Right. It's a final, finding peace after everything. Regardless of there's nothing or something waiting for him. Yeah,
and he's
absolutely.
so close to being done with it. I can just see him surviving because someone else interfered and then being pissed about it. I was close to being done with everything and you brought me back.
Right.
Yes, I've read fics to that effect. Yes.
And the thing is, maybe if Harry didn't show up, maybe he would have done something to live because what he needed to do wasn't done yet. But as soon as Harry is there and he can pass around his memories, it's done then. So maybe for him at that moment, it was just the end. He did what he had to do.
So, did he make final arrangements? Did he have his books all packed up? And I don't know. I've read a couple of fics where either Hermione or Minerva go and pack up his books and everything, all his effects, which are both very affecting.
Makes me really sad to think about.
Yeah. But like, you think of, I don't know, it just depends on how long Wormtail would have been with him at Fenner's End, because like he would have been there before the school year per se, and then he'd be at the school. So it would have been easy for him to completely pack up his life and either have it shrunk down or everything in a single trunk that then he was ready to like leave with, if that makes sense. I could definitely see that.
I mean, the question for me is, did he care about it? Because if he did, obviously he had to be aware that there were, you know, really high risk to die in this war. But if he didn't care, then, you know.
Right.
That's so sad to think about. You're right.
It is.
Yeah. Because for you know, a lot of people, it can eventually come down to things are things. People and relationships are more important. So, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, if he had his entire book collection in a, say, what did they call those? It's a leather briefcase sort of thing, but it's one of those that opens at the top.
Yeah. Okay. I knew
don't know what they're called.
Yeah. Nathan told me because I was writing something. He's like, the one like Mary Poppins, a carpet bag is normally what it would be.
Oh, yes. Did he take a carpet bag full of books?
Yeah.
Have them just ready to go or ready for whoever to dispose of his estate.
I could also have seen him leaving everything to Harry. Like all of a sudden, Harry's dealing with the will of Dumbledore. Like I could only imagine him dealing with the will of Severus Snape, like how emotional and intense that could be. Possibly holding on to some artifacts or memories regarding his mother or things like that could be really, really intense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he thought Harry had to die, you know, so I'm not sure he would have given anything to Harry in that setting, But in the idea is nice anyway.
I have our list of potions: antivenin, anticoagulant, which are both muggle potions, I guess you could say. Blood replenisher and dittany. And they had some dittany in their bag. I mean, maybe even just not knowing if it would work or not. What were you kids thinking?
They weren't. It was traumatic. It was just, I think, like was said earlier, war was happening. There was no rational thinking involved. It was just reacting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just reactions.
And you know, to be fair, they were thinking that he was still working for Voldemort at this point. So yeah,
no, that's also true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Harry's point of view would be very different.
A port key, I've seen that.
An on-demand
ports to someone.
Yeah. You know what I've also seen is one of like someone does stay behind or someone does help, and then once he's like they've given him potions, so once he's clear-headed, he obliviates them and then leaves because the idea of faking his death and not wanting anyone to know he survived.
Right.
Another option is if they were obliviated and they didn't know or remember that they had helped.
I can totally see that, you know.
Oh yeah, that really helps him make his getaway. Also, Fox's tears.
Yes.
He was showing true loyalty to Dumbledore.
Yes.
Or something like that. That maybe Fox would have come out of hiding and helped him out there.
I really like that idea. I've seen it before and it always makes me really happy because I'm like, yes, he deserves that. He deserves that recognition where Fox would be like, yes, I'm going to go save him because he deserves it, because he's loyal, because he's done all of this. So that gets me pumped up, just like, yes, recognize my man, go save him.
Yes.
I'm very into that. But I really love Snape, so I read all the fanfics where he's still alive. So I've seen it all the different ways. He does not get to stay dead in anything that I read.
Yeah, that's the best thing about fan fiction is everyone's interpretation and ability to make things happen differently and make it believable. Like you read it and you're just like, oh, it's not for the sake of just, oh, Snape's gonna live, but all of those little things that we've been talking about that get written in, and the whole time you're like, duh, that absolutely could have happened, and it's really cool.
I don't even try to explain it when I'm writing. I'm just like, we just are all in agreement that he survived somehow. We don't even over the thought that he came even close to death. Like, we don't talk about it.
I'm the same. I'm the same, to be honest. I just want him, alive. And that's all, yeah.
I've been in denial since the 7th book, so it's fine. But I do like reading all the different ways we'll come up with to explain it. I don't want to think about it.
I think she killed him because she had to, or she thought she had to, just because of the narrative and because he killed Dumbledore, and that would be hard to deal with.
It was like the final act in his redemption arc was to sacrifice himself.
Especially if he was convinced that Harry was going to die. Like, everything and all the reasons why he was doing what he was doing for Dumbledore, for Harry, to have lost Dumbledore and then Harry, like, I just don't think he'd be able to emotionally carry that, burden. Like, if that were the case, to survive.
I mean, it will be the most interesting thing to, see the aftermath if he's alive, but it is, 7 other books,
But what do they say? The author is dead?
Yeah, death of the author.
Yes.
Which, we can do whatever we want. All you fic writers can do whatever you want. I'll just enjoy.
Absolutely.
I'll just enjoy reading. Okay. Do you want to talk about some fics?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Evilbean has some good stories. There's one called Moonstone. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
All I can say is that it isn't Jamaica Snape,
No.
It's a little sad. Yes.
Darn.
It's sad, and he lives, but it is sad. Just be aware of that. But it's always interesting for me to deal with the aftermath, what the author didn't do in the book, because if he lives, it is a complicated thing, I don't have, I think, anything to add to that, but it is always interesting for me, and I just like to read stories where he's alive, and it is complicated. It is better if it is complicated.
Very highly recommended.
Thank you.
Why hasn't everybody read it already? I don't know.
Check it out as soon as we're done here.
Okay, yeah. Okay, pretty much I could have probably gone through my bookmarks and found all sorts of wonderful fics where he's lived, but I kind of wanted to do it a little bit differently. There is a tag called Severus Snape Lives on AO3, and on our Rex page, I will have that sorted by kudos. So the ones with the most positive votes, I guess you'd say, which isn't necessarily the best way to find things, but when you're kind of doing that freestyle like that.
Yeah.
I usually sort things by bookmarks because I figure anything someone's like saving like that, I'm like, yes, that's got to be.
Oh, yes, that's a great one. Like, even
smart.
if they haven't read it yet, they're saving it to read, later, or are interested in it at the very least.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
That's just how I usually do it. If I'm looking for something kind of more vague and not specific, I'll sort of.
Yeah. And some people do hits too, because obviously people are there. Not everyone leaves kudos or like have downloaded the story and read it and then never go back. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'll download the EPUBs to read on my iPad, and then I forget to go back and like comment in kudos, and I feel really bad about it. But it's like, I'm just ingesting so much so quickly, and it's just what happens. So that's also, a thing.
Sure.
Whatever people prefer to do, I figure.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's good to hear different ways, because.
Well, I never have looked at the Snape Lives tag, but like I said, most things I read, he is alive anyway. So I was thinking, what are things that I read that you would call, Snape Lives? So something that post Deathly Hallows that have taken that into consideration. So I did find a few if y'all want them.
Yeah.
Yes.
But obviously, because it's me, they're all snary.
I know, that's mine.
Right.
That's what I got.
So, okay, one of my favorite fics of all time is called Reconciling Lily's Eyes by Persepolis 130. It's on Walking the Plank, and there's a sequel called Epilogue for Lily's Eyes. So it's like right after the war, Snape's alive, he's trying to like move on with his life, and then Harry just won't leave him alone, basically.
Of course not.
He like literally follows him to the United States. Like,
oh my gosh.
So he's like very determined that they're gonna reconcile everything, and it's basically, they're very dysfunctional, odd romance, like falling in love despite the fact that Snape was in love with his mom, or is still in love with his mom, and all of his trauma and issues with James, like them just overcoming all of that. And even though things are not perfect, still falling in love. So that's one of them. And then another one that I really love is called Something to Remember So They Won't Forget by Rosette R. And it's, you know, an 8th year story, everyone trying to move on after the war. And then there's also, it's 2 stories by Sweet Samba. One's called Proto Snape and the other's called Pseudo Prince. And it's basically he survived, but no one knows it. And he just uses polyjuice to disguise himself. And then it just comes to light when Harry is trying to develop some Wizarding Heroes action figures.
Oh my.
Weasleys with their Weezes, and they're trying to do a Snape action figure, and that's how they kind of so
oh my god,
it's
that's so
really
great.
good. So I will obviously give you all the links for those ones, but those are some ones that I really love that I would consider to be that sort of Snape Lives, where it takes the Deathly Hallows into account and surviving in spite of it. So yeah, just some snary goodies if anyone is interested.
Oh, absolutely. Well, send me those.
I'll go put them in server.
In the Snary channel. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yes, please do.
One of the ones I found on that Severus Snape Lives tag is called A Light in the Fog by Turtle Wexler, and it's really entertaining. Basically, it's 10 years after the war, and Severus develops amnesia, and he can't remember anything after he heard the prophecy in the Hogshead.
Wow. Yeah, so he forgot pretty much most of everything. Wow.
So it's really interesting. I'm really enjoying it. Did you have another one, or Megs, do you have?
Yeah, one in particular, just because it's one of my favorites that I read over and over again. It's called Andrew 38 by Hippocrates 460. It's a fun, like fluffy, obviously like post Hogwarts AU, where Snape actually opens up a yoga studio and he's a yoga teacher. So it's like his way of getting rid of all the negative energy, but essentially Harry is post-divorce with Ginny and makes this account on essentially a wizard like Grinder account, and they start talking to each other unaware that it's the other person. And eventually when Harry discovers it, like it alludes to them having a history, which to me, like it's missing something there. Like everyone's like, oh, of course you guys are together. I'm like, why do you think that? I need to know that. But overall, it's very sweet. It's very fun. And then of course it's got some sexy phone sex and eventual, you know, whatnot. But I love that fic so much. It's not like anything I've really read too much to get kind of without being full on Muggle AU. It was just like them trying to figure out a life aside from being Harry Potter, aside from being Severus Snape, and finding each other regardless of knowing who each other were. So I love that one. And I just picture Snape in yoga pants and I love it.
Same. I was thinking about that exactly.
Yeah, because I think his photo was like him like bent over in some sort of like downward dog something, but his face was kind of covered. So Harry's just like, ooh, someone flexible.
Priorities.
It's fun. I really enjoyed that one.
Oh, that's great. I found an old Reddit thread with some rics for fanfiction.net, and I'll post that. And one of them was Miles to Go Before I Sleep by Renaro. Basically, what would have happened if Voldemort had understood that defeat, not death, conferred mastery of the Elder Wand and did not kill Snape? And what of all the stray Death Eaters J.K.R. forgot to mention, like Bella Lestrange's husband, who is really PO'd, basically wanting to get revenge. So that's a very interesting story. And it's one where he doesn't give Harry the memories. He sends his Patronus with Lily's voice. So Harry thinks it's from his mom. And it tells him he has to die. So he goes and he does that. And, you know, everything happens except everybody thinks Snape's the bad guy. And he almost gets lynched and so on. So it's more spy stuff, which is good. He goes back undercover.
Yeah.
So,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's what I got.
And of course, danpuff and I love Pacify, obviously. It's just easy to say, which essentially is a rewrite of book 5 onward and past, which is, you know, and how it also shows how he survived, which is great too. So that's a really great series.
Yeah, I just finally got caught up with that last week.
Nice.
It's I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of words there are, but
so many.
it's worth every one of them. So.
Yeah, every time she's asked, it's like, do you know when you're gonna finish? It's like, I have a plan, but it's like it just, we don't know when that is. So it's which is fine. Give us more. That's great.
Well, yeah, if there's more plots to put into it. And yeah, in that case, the way Snape lived was that Harry caused the Shrieking Shack to blow up before Voldemort could kill him, before he could sick Nagini on him.
Yeah.
So
yep, he has one of his emotional explosions. Yeah.
Yes, wild magic, which is a whole interesting thing of its own. Yeah. So I don't know how long we've been talking.
Well, at least 55 minutes, 11:55. So
okay, I think we covered everything in there.
Yeah.
Talking points. So,
I guess kind of just as a fun thing that I want to ask everybody is, if Snape were to completely either fake his death or decide to separate himself from the wizarding world, what do you think he would do? Like, where do you think he would go, and what do you think he would do? Like, me personally, I love the fact that he would open a yoga studio. Like, I just think that's so great.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, if he stepped away from the wizarding world altogether, I don't know. I like those Muggle AUs where he's like a chemistry teacher. So if he did something like chemistry, professions. I don't know. I think just research somewhere. He's very smart. He likes knowing things. I could see him doing something scientific or just research, writing, just constantly learning more and building himself up and doing more. So,
or influencing like Muggle medicine and trying to help advance those findings, which is really cool to think about too.
Did you read Second Life? Because it is something he does in that fic. It is one of my favorites. It is a snack, so be aware of that. But yes, it is post-war, and he indeed works in medicine in that one. He's a scientist,
Yeah, I haven't read that, but I love that.
Can you get us a link for that? Okay.
Yes, I will. Yeah, I will.
All right. And him doing research and everything is so much more noble than just having a bookstore. But I can see him doing that and kind of retiring from everything.
Yeah, just relaxing and not having to worry about anything. And he can still do reading there and be that cantankerous shop owner.
Yes.
Find his bliss, like do everything for Severus and not for other people for once.
And then he'd get bored, and I don't know. or somebody comes along and gets him sucked back into the magical world.
Definitely. I can see that. I don't know that he would stay away forever, even if he could go back to the guys or something.
I could see him going away and, like, without anyone knowing, developing the next potions tech instead of just using advanced potion making. Like, obviously he made it better, and then creating a new potions text to then, put out there and then maybe become famous because of it, which is really fun too.
I love that.
So many things.
So many possibilities.
Yep. You can be whatever you want to be.
Especially him. Not only does he deserve it, but he's got the skills, he's got the drive.
Oh, for sure.
He could actually, you could tell me he's doing anything, and I'd be like, yep, that sounds about right.
One of I keep bringing up Zigadinus, but on Inkstains, after he's basically rescued, he manages an art space, I guess, where various artists rent, it's a big warehouse type thing. And he does that, and he reads science fiction compulsively.
Nice.
And he has lots of plants, but he has no wand. So anything he does is pretty much wandless. It's just, I don't know, another interesting way of him.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I like the idea of him read science fiction novels.
Same.
Yeah.
Him doing anything pointless, it's a little joy for me because he didn't have any time for that in his life,
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Of course, he needs to have love in his life too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I know his always, that's a whole other show that we could have, is
Absolutely.
the nature of his relationship with Lily, especially after she's been gone for years and years.
Yeah.
How does somebody keep that going? And and once he's basically redeemed himself by protecting Harry until it's time for him to die, right?
Right.
And it gets him to fulfill his destiny. Is that something he can then put on a shelf? I think he should.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think he would need to, to live. It would be necessary to do that. But I don't know how. So
move on, to live, to be happy with the life he has.
Okay, well, I think we've pretty much covered this. I'm sure I'll think of 5 things that I wish I had said, but
always, but we did good. We can't do everything, but this was great.
Yeah, well, I appreciate everybody joining us.
Yeah.
Megs, danpuff, evilbean, and this is Snapecentric. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed the discussion portion of our show. Thanks to everyone for joining in. Now we have an interview with the amazing author, Evilbean. Enjoy. I'd like to welcome Evilbean today. We'll be asking some questions and reading from her work. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm 36, so I'm a little old for fandoms.
No, you're not. I'm old.
You're too nice. You're too
no,
nice.
I'm a couple decades on that. So
I mean, you're fine, because I don't think really there is an age, for fandoms, but also youth, around. So 36 for me. And so for the boring part of it, I work in medical research, clinical trials. I'm only saying that because it is quite a demanding job, and sometimes it is hard for me to find time, for nice stuff like fandoms and writing and things like that. So and actually it's a little funny that I work in medical research because I have a PhD in chemistry, so really it wasn't meant to be, and potions always. And I live in south of France, hence the awful accent right now, the French accent that I despise, but you think it's funny, so
No, that's good.
Okay, I like to write silly stories about mainly Severus Snape, and I share them with random strangers on the internet, and that's a weird hobby for you.
How long have you been a writer?
So the dreaded question, right?
Yes, I know.
I'm sure all the writer. I needed to think about this one. So my answer will be a little long. Sorry about that. Ravenclaw, I really thought about it. And so if you mean a writer as in a person who writes stuff, I think my first written stories were when I was around 11, 12 years old, I think, something like that. And I remember writing a lot of silly stories, mainly original stories at this time. When I was in middle school, I think that's equivalent for you because, school systems, I had to translate that also. So yes, 11, 12 middle school, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I also wrote a lot of poetry when I was a teenager. So yes, I was a cliche teenager who wrote poetry, a lot of them. And if we are talking more about making out stories, I think I've always been doing that. I like to play make-believe when I was a child, and I was always making up stories and playing in my bedroom, things like that. I mean, I didn't really need anyone to play with me, to be honest. And I'm an only child, so maybe that was the reason why at first, I don't know. But yes, I was always daydreaming a lot and playing and inventing stories in my head. And to be honest, I still do it to this day. So I'm old, but I'm still a child, inside. I'm always making up stories, and I do these things that I know now a lot of people do, actually. I didn't know that when I was young, but when I'm in my bed, just before going to sleep, when the light is off, I tend to think about stories and characters and plots, and some of them end up being written later on, but most of them don't, to be honest. And yes, I always do that. And I think as far as I can remember, I did it as a very young child. So yes, there's that. And now about fan fictions, I mean, for that, it began where I think it was, also my daydreaming habits for that. I was, watching TV shows or reading a book or things like that. And and I started to write some things about them. And I mean, a lot of people have similar story, I think, about that. And I would always make up stories with those wonderful characters. And I mean, usually I only need that one character that I obsessed about, you know, and it's all I need to write a story about it. So yeah, that's my story for being a writer now.
Oh, that's a great story.
I mean, I'm not sure it's really original, you know, but
Well,
yes, that's how
it sounds like you have such a rich inner life.
Yes, I think so, you know. I think I'm always thinking about some stories. I'm not really in the real world, you know, in my head. It's good for stories, but not for some other stuff, as you can imagine.
So how did you come into the Snapedom?
Yeah, so I've always been a Snape girl. I remember reading the first Harry Potter books, and from the beginning, from book one, you know, I thought he was so funny, you know.
Yes.
I just loved the way he talk and speak, and everything he was saying was always so funny to me. And yes, he was, I mean, really mean to Harry, but even as a child, it wasn't really a problem for me. I found it, you know, it was delightful for me to read every scene in which there was Snape from the beginning. I just found him delicious, you know, as a character. I think, yeah, even book one from the beginning for me. And then after that, we had more books, and he got even more interesting, I think, because maybe I wouldn't be a Snape girl if it was only that he was funny and anything. Right now, I don't know really, but the mystery around him was really fascinating to me.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure it's the same for you, but I could sense that there was more to him. And I remember in particular at the end of book 3, I think that was the beginning of my real obsession with him, because I remember reading, you know, the last scene after the Shrieking Shack in that book, when they are, I think, in the hospital wing, I think, yeah, and you have Snape that is really, you know, screaming at everyone, and Harry, I think, thought at that moment that Snape looks something like unhinged or something like that, and I was, you know, captivated by that. I thought it was such an overreaction, you know, at first reading.
Yes.
And I really, really wanted to know why he was like that. And I was sure there was something behind that. And I was right, of course. So kudos to myself as a child. But yeah, and I think it was the beginning of the obsession right here. And yeah, after that, I started doing fandom online. And of course, when you're online in fandoms, it doesn't help, you know, with the obsession. So yeah, I'm still a fangirl right now for Snape.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it doesn't go away like that, you know.
No. What's your favorite format to write?
So I think about this one too. And of course, my answer is a little complicated because I can't really just give you a one answer and leave it at that. But yes, so I think about it. And I think first, I'm better, I think, at middle length one-shots. That's the easiest thing to write for me. Like Moonstone, for example, it's easiest for me to write something like that around, I don't know, 5-8K words, something like that. Just one self-contained story, it's better for me. But I experienced, you know, with Drabble last year. So I have like one Drabble in my RO3 account. It was last year. And I really, really enjoyed that. I was surprised by that, to be honest, because I tried it just to try it, to be honest. And yes, it was really enjoyable. And I think for that, it was searching for the right word at the exact right place, because my Drabble was like 100 words exactly. And the challenge of that was really, really delicious also, you know. But my issue with that, and the reason why I didn't write more after that, is that I don't read Drabble myself. So really, yeah, I feel like it's a little self-indulgent, you know, to write things that you wouldn't read. I don't know why I feel like that, but yeah, yes, I didn't write more, but maybe sometimes just to you know, please myself, I guess. I will do more, I don't know. And as you know, I also sometimes write multi-chapter fics, so like that awful Snape Boy. And this isn't really the easiest format for me. I'm struggling with that. And you know, you have to plan a little more for that and be a little organized. You can't really post it. I tend to do that. So yeah, it's a way of learning for me, this one. And it's a personal challenge and I really like it, and especially in English. But I think I'm getting better at it actually. So that's very good for me. And I'm learning along the way, you know, with that one, with a multi-chapter novelish story. Yeah.
Yes.
So that was my long, complicated answer for you.
Oh, good answer. Do you write about other main characters or fandoms?
Currently, I'm not writing for other fandoms, or I mean, even other characters character, to be honest. Maybe I will, but yeah. But I did in the past because, as I explained earlier, I tend to obsess over things. So yeah. And I remember actually I wrote some fanfics about House and Doctor Who also. I don't think they are, you can't find them right now. And it's better for everyone, I think. Because it was in French at the time and it's lost in the internet right now. Thank God for that. Yeah. But actually I always wrote something like that. When I was younger, I remember writing things, really silly things, some really embarrassing ones too. And I mean, I did write some fanfic about silly soaps my grandmother was watching and things like that. Some old TV shows at my parents and, really embarrassing things. Yeah. So I did that. Yeah. Not only for Harry Potter.
Originally, you wrote your stories in French, which is your native language. What factors led you to change to English?
So that's really interesting because actually it was a journey for me to end up really being able to write in English. And, because at the beginning, everything was in French for me. I started reading Harry Potter in French. I mean, I can't do that now, which is funny. It is only in English for me now, but at the beginning, of course, it was in French. I mean, I was maybe 11 or 12, so yeah. And my English was even, worse than now at the time.
No, good.
So really, yes, it was all in French, and all of my old stories are lost now on French forums and such things, but everything was in French. And I mean, I think some of them survived on fanfiction.net, the later stories, but really not a lot. And what happened really is that I started to read in English, and I think at the beginning it was because I wanted to read more stuff to get access to more stuff, because I have already read, all the French ones that I wanted to read. So I started, searching for English stuff. I think I learned English that way, to be honest. So yeah, that and TV shows, and yeah. And little by little, what happens is that my brain started to get really messed up with it, because everything I was reading and all of my fandom life was in English at one point. And suddenly I found myself, incapable of writing in French anymore. So yes, it was awful. It is really, yeah, it was awful for me. And I don't know if other people that are non-native speaker, of English share that story, but for me, it was awful because I couldn't yet write in English, my English wasn't good enough for me to write in English, but I was consuming everything in English, so my brain couldn't do it in French. It didn't sound right in French anymore. I was even making up my stories, my daydreaming, like I call it, in English at that time, but I couldn't write really. So yes, it was a horrible time, and I think it was the longest writer block I've ever had for fanfiction. It was like 2 to 3 years without being able to write anything. And yeah, and of course, eventually I tried it in English because I just needed to write something. And I think it was like 4 years ago, something like that. And one of my friends pushed me a little. I think she will listen to it. So thank you, Alex, for that. And she pushed me a little, and I started to write in English. At first, it was painful, and I was struggling a lot because I wasn't good at it, and it's still a struggle. It's not perfect, but it's getting better. And now, I can write in English without English being, between me and the story. So that's good. I mean, even if I have to edit it a lot after that, I can write, easily in English. So that's perfect for me.
Well, it's great for us too.
I mean, to be honest, it's great for me too, because it was really frustrating not being able to write for me.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, and that way I'm better at English now. Not perfect, but better, believe me.
Oh, you're so good now. You're a master of angst. Did you come by it naturally, or did Snape bring it out in you?
So I don't think it came from Snape. I really think it came from me, to be honest. It is the other way around for that. Yeah, because as you know, I was always fascinated by Snape, but I think the reason why is because he's a very angsty character,
Yes.
And I like them, apparently. And when I think about, all the characters I obsess about, they're all really angsty and complicated, and I've got a type really. So yes, I think it was in that order more. And, even when I was imagining silly stuff about, I don't know, my grandma silly soaps, I turned everything into to angst. I found some things not so long ago about that, and it was just so funny for me to read something so angsty about silly silly soaps that my grandma was watching at the time, you know. And yeah, angst for me, it's a curse, really. I think it's me putting it into the characters and not the other way around. And it's a little silly and weird because I'm not really an angsty person in real life. I'm not like that. I'm really enthusiastic and not really angsty.
Right.
I think, I don't know. You like angst too, I think? What is it for you?
Oh, yes. I don't know. I guess I like hurting.
Yeah, maybe. I think for me it is cathartic, you know. It's cathartic to write.
It is a catharsis, yes.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, like you, I don't want to analyze it, you know, too deeply because it's a little scary. I don't want to know why, really. Yeah.
Yes, what makes us enjoy it so much.
I'm busy flushing right now, you know, blushing for you.
In your wonderful but somber Moonstone, Sirius is convinced into taking an ill Snape to St. Mungo's. How did you come up with this premise?
So, Moonstone, it's a funny one, and you're lucky because I actually remember how it was created, the first word about it anyway, when I came out with the story and the start of it. So I was actually at the back of a motorcycle, you know, in Paris. So that's interesting. And for a little bit of context here, for my job, I tend to, you know, travel a lot across France, and I'm always, you know, in a plane or train or a taxi. And when I'm in Paris, because Paris is a nightmare when you try to go anywhere by car, I tend to use taxis that are bike. It's easier that way. And yes, so it was on the back of one of those bikes that I started to daydream about the start of Moonstone as a story. And I did it for quite some times because I tend to have recurrent daydreams, and every time I was at the back of some of those bikes, I would think about that story again. I don't really know why, but since we discussed that earlier, you and me, apparently now that I think about it, I think the story about Snape being ill, you know, maybe it was because when I'm working and I'm traveling, I'm visiting hospitals, talking to doctors and reading sad patients' files, to be honest, and maybe that was the influence here. Yeah, I didn't think about that before saying your questions, you know, before discussing this with you, but yeah, it's interesting. I think maybe it came that way to me. And you know, that was the first step for Moonstone, so just a little more of daydreaming and me coming out with stories in my head. But then one day, a little time after that, but not too much, I started to write it, on my iPad, I think, when I was on a train or a plane, something like that, after work. And it was a little late, I remember that. But yes, I just wrote, you know, the beginning of it, because that's all I had at the time, just the beginning. I was obsessed with the beginning of the story for some reason. And once it was written, I just forgot about it because that's how it works. I just needed to put it on paper when it was my iPad, so no paper, but yeah. And I forgot about it. And sometimes after that, I just found my notes. I think it was like a year later, something like that. And yeah, and I just thought about it and wanted to write it. And it took me, less than 2 days to write. So it was really, really quick. And it just came out of me like it was already written, which was magical, you know. That isn't something that happen really often. So yes, I think that's the reason why I love this one. That's the process of writing it was just magical and easy, and yeah, it was so interesting. So yes, that's how it came to be for you.
Wow, it is so good. I can't say enough words about it.
I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm blushing again, you know. I'm not too good with the compliments here, but I'm so glad that people like my stories, you know.
Yes.
It makes me happy. I know it is a little, but yeah, it's a happy feeling.
In That Awful Snape Boy, which is a long fic that you're working on, Minerva McGonagall takes up the guardianship of a young Severus. Was this to finally give the poor kid a break?
You know, it totally was. So I feel seen right now. Yes. So this week, it's totally me indulging myself. You know, I just wanted him to be happy, I think. So you're totally right on this one. And actually for this one, it's funny because I didn't exactly plan to write it at first. Actually, I wanted to read something like that. I wanted the happy feeling, you know. And I couldn't find anything that was close to what I wanted to read. So yes, I just decided to write it myself, as you do. And I mean, to be honest, I still want to read it more than I want to write it. But you know, now I'm on it now. I'm joking because I'm actually having a good time with it. I just struggled with the last chapter, so I'm a little bitter about that right now. But yeah, it was good. Yeah, and you know, sometimes even when you're like me and like you apparently, and you like angsty stories, sometimes you just want your favorite character to be happy, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was exactly that for this one.
Yeah, and there's still some angst, mostly because of Severus, how you say.
I mean, his view of the world is not, really, it's distorted, you know. He's not experiencing the world as it is, I think.
Yeah.
For Severus, he's looking for, you know, things to attack him when there are none.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, it's
I
a
think
little
he's getting
angsty.
better though. Yes.
Yes, it is a little angsty because, you know, it is one of my stories and I can't do anything else, apparently. You know, I tried fluff, I can't. It always ends sad, you know. But yes, there's a lot of comfort also in this one, I think, I hope. More to come, obviously.
What are your future plans for Snape?
So, you know, more for little Severus in That a Full Snape Boy, obviously, because like I said, I just published, you know, like the last chapter this week, I think. And yeah, I'm still working on that and I have other ideas. And I mean, so there's that. And also, I just written a little Snapey thing for the Rare Pair Fest. Yes, I think it will be published in some months, like January or something like that. So yeah, but it is already done, and so we will have that for later. And it is angsty, of course, just so you're warned about that. Yeah.
All right.
And I have other projects at all times in various state of progress, to be honest. And most of them are still in my head, but some of them are already in some kind of form somewhere. But yes, I can't really talk about it because, you know, it isn't about spoilers because it's not that important what I'm writing, but it's more because I don't always know what will end up published. So I can't really tell you because if I am excited about something right now and I talk about it and I never published it, it's not interesting for you, you know? Yeah.
And where can we find you online?
So to find me online, if you ever want to, I don't know why, you can find me on AO3, obviously, at evilbean, because it is my pen name there. And I still have my old account on, you know, fanfiction.net, and I tend to publish on both the new stories. So yes, and I am under Natty1 on this one. And also on Tumblr, of course, at That a Full Snape Boy without spaces. So yes, it's a mess. I promise one day I will work on that, but yes.
You're such a busy person.
Yes, but you know, I'm lazy too, to be honest, for things like that, yeah. But it's not good to have, you know, I don't have the same name for each one of them, so yeah, it's a little confusing for everyone, even for myself, because I don't remember always, yeah.
Oh, right. And we will have links up on our website.
Thank you for that.
Sure. That's, you know.
It's easier, yeah.
All her stories are highly recommended, by the way. And then, if you don't mind, I'll read some passages from your stories.
That will be interesting to listen to it. Yeah, I will mute myself just to not to disturb you.
You don't have to do that.
No, you know, just because I will make sound, you know, just listening to it. Yeah, you know, it's weird to write something and listen to it later on.
Yeah, I bet it is. This is an extract from Moonstone. Sirius's attention was distracted from Snape when a dark tabby cat jumped unexpectedly on his lap, already purring. Sirius giggled softly at the soft animal cheek. At least one resident in that awful house was welcoming, petting the cat with gusto. Its fur was very soft and thick, with its eyes big and of the greenest green. Sirius drank his tea in silence. The cup was chipped, but the tea was surprisingly good. It tasted of bergamot and general citrusiness. Seeing Snape reappear in the kitchen, he couldn't help but ask, "What's its name?" pointing to the cat still purring on his lap and currently busy trying to headbutt the hand holding the cup with a little too much enthusiasm. "She's Moonstone. She's my cat." "I figured as much, Snape, although I have to say that this is a very friendly cat, considering." "And what's that even supposed to mean?" Snape was staring menacingly at him. He looked genuinely offended by the comment, and Sirius couldn't help but laugh openly at the silliness of it all. Had he just offended Snape by saying that his cat was too friendly for him? "I'm not going to hurt your cat, Snape. Relax, will you?" Snape stayed still for a little while before replying softly as his broken voice allowed anyway, while staring at the oblivious animal. "You better not. She's a good cat." He sounded deadly serious, too. Sirius pinched himself to make sure he wasn't dreaming the whole thing up. Okay, so this is the beginning, or near the beginning of the story.
Yes, it is at the beginning, yeah. And thank you for that. It was really lovely reading.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this finds Snape and Sirius having some common ground.
Yes, I think because it is post-war and, really, I don't remember the setting exactly. I know I calculated it at the time, but I don't remember right now, but it is some years after the end of the war, and both of them are, a little broken, a little or a lot even. Yeah. And I think that was the idea here, to make them see common ground, because after all of that, I think maybe they can't find their anger anywhere, It's in the past now. So yeah, they are a little more civil to each other in this one. And I mean, Snape isn't well in this one. So I think Sirius can't really be nasty to him right now.
Right. Yeah, that would be kicking him when he's down.
Yeah, exactly. And with a cat, you have to be nice.
Oh, yes.
The cat is nice. So yeah, it's helping.
Right. Now, this is from That Awful Snape Boy. She would often think about this discussion in future years, that quiet discussion in the headmaster's office. Only Poppy and Albus there, and that wonderful bergamot tea that they used to drink together in the evening while discussing diverse school matters. How strange and how telling in the end that it was her and not Horace Slughorn discussing the possible abuse case that was Severus Snape, third-year Slytherin. At the time, it had been a very uncomfortable situation for all of them. No need to be around the bush here. It wasn't a welcome sensation, something like a diffuse itching guilt. It was a little sore on their conscience, being suddenly aware that they deeply wished for all to be taken care of as soon as possible, if only not to have to think about the unlikable boy for any extended period of time. It was acutely eye-opening for Minerva to realize that sometimes we don't have to like the ones that need us the most for us to help them, and in a sense, this was a truer test of our hearts. It had all happened on Wednesday, 3rd of September, 1973. She committed the date to memory. She would always be amazed that this discussion could have taken place in the first place. If the boy hadn't been unconscious, would they even have learned anything before it was too late? Surely in some cold alternate universe, that awful Snape boy was left to fend for himself in the world. And what would his life have been then? A darker thought was that she wasn't sure who would have been hurt the most, the hostile little boy or the rest of the world.
Thank you again.
Yeah, that's last little bit is like, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. Sometimes I need to end with a punch, to call back to canon, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the prologue of the story, actually, this one, this particular extract, yeah. And it's very interesting to listening to you, reading out loud, because I can see right now some sentences that are a little too long. I want to edit right now. Hearing you reading it, yeah, it's funny. I should read it. No, don't. Absolutely not. Do not apologize for that. It's me. I should really sometimes try to read it out loud, I think. Yeah. And yes, we can also see my little obsession with bergamot in here. I became aware of that in last chapter, actually, of That Awful Snape Boy. But seeing the two extracts, the one from Moonstone before and this one, I can see that it is an old issue.
Yeah, I think it's a little Easter egg from you to the reader.
It is, it is. I mean, I already had bergamot in some old French fic, So yes, I have a problem with that. But I mean, it smells delicious, right?
It does.
So yeah.
Earl Grey tea, yes.
Yeah, it's very good. And I tend to drink it when I am writing. So I mean, maybe that's the reason why. Yeah.
Oh, so when we read that, we can think of you writing with your cup of tea.
Exactly. And the sound of the rain.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Evil Bean.
I mean, thank you for having me.
Again, we'll have links to her stories on the website. That's snapechatpodcast.com. And we'll talk to you again soon. And this is it for Snape Chat Episode 7. Find links in the show notes for Evil Bean, Fic Rex, and more. Let us know what you think. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Tumblr and Twitter, or send us an email or voice message. We'd love to hear from you. Be sure to check out Care of Magical Shippers podcast. Thanks for listening in. Until next time, stay snarky.